The top doctor for this condition Miriam has, when she was born, was in St. Joseph Hospital. He spent a very long time with her. He, picked her up, measured her, turned her over, did all kinds of things. He put her down, and then he said afterwards, with a big smile, "She looks fantastic." And I said, "She looks fantastic?" I said, "The clothing she wore home from the hospital is tremendous on her. She's 7 months old. She can't lift her head. She has no gross motor skills. What do you mean she looks fantastic? She looks terrible." And he just was quiet for a while. He looked at me. He said, "Okay." He said, "Everything you said is true. You're right. You're right. Everything you said is true. But as a doctor, I know how much more could be wrong, and I know how much more should be wrong." And he said, "When I look at these x-rays, I see a very, very sick child who cannot possibly breathe on her own." He said, "Do you realize she breathes on her own?" I said, "Well, a lot of people do that." He said, "This chest is not big enough for respiration. If you look at her, she clearly is breathing fine." So he said, I just can't explain this. I always remember what he said. He said, "God's eyes have not been off this child for even a minute." And I did always come back to that.
Miriam was one of the most devoted learning center teachers I've ever seen.
You'd think someone with her disability would sit in an office and work behind a closed door and whatever, but she had the confidence that most people don't have in their lifetime to stand there and do what they thought is right and do what they knew that they were best at doing.
The boys loved her, they respected her, and they honestly didn't see her as different. She looked different, but that was about it. And because she had this ability to connect and to meet boys at their level and to break down things to them at their level and to understand things that they weren't able to understand before she came into their lives, she built this connection and this relationship with them.
Whether that was staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning, researching, whether that was going out and finding a specific game that this specific kid wanted for this specific lesson, whether it was talking to parents again, meeting with parents, and then talking to parents. There was nothing that was, that's too exhausting. Oh, I'm not gonna do that. If it was for her boys, she was gonna do it. It didn't really matter what it was, she was gonna do it and make it happen.
At the end of the year, she'd always write each boy a card describing them and their co-hosts and how they grew that year.
Whatever their day was looking like, when you see her and she was so happy and you knew what she was going through, obviously had an impact on all her students.
Miriam was an example, a role model for our boys that you might be different, whether physically, like by the way Miriam looked, or sometimes your brain is different, the inside is different and you learn different, and what's easy for some kids is harder for others. That message was imparted to every single boy in our learning center.
Everything that she could do to help her Talmidim grow and thrive and reach their potential. It was incredible to see the relationship that she had with the boys, every single one of them.
They felt the love. It's something you can't make up.
And she considered every single one of her students to be one of hers. It was all about the students, and it was so clear that her students were her children.
Miriam always recognized the tremendous potential that exists in every child, even from a very young age. Even before she was a teacher, she would meet a niece or nephew, she would see the tremendous powers that can be brought out of him.
I remember there was a boy from a single parent home and the son needed tutoring. The parent said to Miriam, "I know that my son needs this. I know that you're the one who can give it to him best, but we just cannot afford it." Miriam said to her, "Don't worry about it. I'll deal with all the paperwork, everything that you need. Your son should just show up tomorrow and it'll be taken care of." The kid shows up next day, the day after, and my mother got wind of what was going on and she said, "Miriam, you're really gonna give this kid tutoring for free? Maybe give him a reduced price, but for free?" Miriam said, "Look, I'm single right now. I don't really have a lot of expenses. This is what I'm passionate about. I want this boy to learn."
She was our son's learning center teacher. When our son became bar mitzvah, she really made the effort. She walked to shul. It was a long walk. It was hard for her, but she said, "I am not missing this moment." She was so proud of him.
She was my tutor. She was a great tutor. It feels like the learning center is now empty and different.
She always got annoyed when people said that she was an inspiration. She said, okay, so I woke up in the morning, I got on my car, I went to work, I had lunch, I came home. I mean, like, what's inspiring about this? She was always being called from meaningful people, all these different podcasts. They wanted to talk to her and Mendel, and she always said, what are we going to say? There's nothing to say. We are very boring people.
She never saw herself as having a disability. She lived her life as a regular person, but that's who she was. You met her and you just always just broke into a smile or laughter.
There's something about Miriam that she makes you feel so comfortable. She's so non-judgmental. She says things as it is. Like, there's no awkward with her. She just says it. I have a son with dwarfism. She had a lot of advice on how we can raise our son. Most people you have to walk on eggshells around, or be careful what you say. You have to worry not to offend someone. With Miriam, it was the opposite. You could just be yourself.
She helped me through a lot of stuff also. I have a special needs daughter. And she I told Miriam, I'm I don't understand, how do you get over these stairs? Everywhere I go, people are staring at me. And she's like, you just have to walk tall and proud. She had so much depth to her. She was so meaningful and relatable.
Miriam had an innate she'ifa to grow, to go mechayil el choil in her limud, in her avodas Hashem, in her tefillah.
She really had a very strong connection to Hashem, someone who valued her tefillah immensely. She really knew that nothing is a mistake from Hashem, everything is planned out. But at the same time, she was someone that knew how to have so much fun and so much simchas chayim and go with the flow and talk to people, and someone who really enjoyed life.
How she viewed the world is the way that we should all be, viewing the world. Hashem runs the world. Hashem is in control. Everything was in His hands, and let's live our lives the way He wants us and intended us to.
I remember one time Miriam said to me, she said, Khani, I don't know if I'll ever get married. I don't know if I'll ever build a family. So I have to make the most of what I have in my life right now. And hopefully, Mirat Hashem, God willing, I will one day. But right now, I don't know what is in store for me. So right now, this job, what I'm doing here with my students, that is my life and my purpose. And therefore, I'm going to give it 1,000%.
And I think it's just such a lesson for all of us. Yeah, we all got something. We do. But look what she had. And look what she did. So no matter what hits you in life, no matter whatever it is, you have that emunah and bitachon, you'll get there.
Miriam was the epitome of using what you have to your advantage. So there was no obstacle really, whether it was her wheelchair, standing on her wheelchair, holding a book to get something down from the top shelf because no one else was around and she needed it. So the only thing stopping her from what she wanted to get was ingenuity. So she looked around at her surroundings and said, okay, how can I use my situation to my advantage? She was very realistic about what her limits were. She set her limits just below impossible. So everything that she wanted to do and knew that she could accomplish, she accomplished.
The Rebbeinu Shem doesn't know the word no. And because the Rebbeinu Shem doesn't know the word no, so Memela, Miriam didn't know the word no. Miriam Shalom didn't know the word no. Her parents, her Heliga parents, Tibot L'chaim, they don't know the word no. Okay, you have the Rebbeinu Shem. There's no such thing as no.
She would be in shul every single Shabbos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, davening for a shidduch like everyone else. And I can imagine so many people thought, how's that even possible? But it was.
So we know what Chazal tell us, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev Mezavik Zivugim. It's true for every shidduch. It's true for every one of us, every member of Klal Yisrael. But sometimes when you witness Yad Hashem, you witness the Hashgacha Elyoina in full force. L'einei Kol Yisrael. If marriages are made in heaven, this was made by the Kisei HaKavod.
Two people from two different backgrounds, from two different worlds, completely somehow meshing together in a unbelievable manner.
She never thought in 100 years she would marry someone outside of her Mizgeret, never thought she'd marry someone Hasidish, certainly never thought she'd marry someone from Chabad. They learned together at nights, and she became exposed to some of their Messiah. And I have to say, to Mendel's credit,
She had more energy than anyone I know dancing at their own wedding.
It was a wedding that you didn't want to leave. You just wanted to stay till the very, very end.
I remember a friend of mine coming to me during the wedding, telling me, Mendel, I've never seen your face so aglow. It was the happiest day of my life.
When she was married for those 2 years, like, that was the happiest time of her life that anyone had ever seen her. She was so full and so happy and so energized.
She became a wife, a true wife. The whole Chabad life was nothing of anything she knew, meaning it was so far from anything she knew, and she went right into it.
As she was embarking and looking forward to her next journey on her shlichus in Pasadena and Glen Burnie, she didn't just want to go on shlichus. She wanted to become a shlucha. She studied the Rebbe's talks, the Rebbe's teachings, the Rebbe's sichos to understand the idea of Avas Yisrael, not just as an active campaign, but the Torah, the sugya of Avas Yisrael.
And so we had this seminar for shluches, new shluches going out. First one, literally, to be in the front row at the first table with her pen and paper, you know, ready to take notes, so eager. You saw Miriam was like sitting there as, you know, one of the group. Just belonged. She fit right in. She was a shlucha. Coming from a background where this wasn't necessarily what she grew up with, she knew that she had to work extra hard.
When they approached us to become shluchim, my wife and I were thinking about it and we're like, wow, it is unbelievable. There's over 10,000 Jews in Anne Arundel County, and over 90% of those 10,000 Jews don't go to shul on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur.
I said to her, it looks like this shlichus thing is really working out. Questioning, kind of. And in a positive way, she said, it's definitely working out. She was so definite and positive about it. She said, at this point, I think I'm more excited than Mendel.
Last summer, when we found out suddenly that Miriam was really, really ill, I couldn't imagine that she wouldn't pull through. I really, really couldn't. She had been through so much in her life, and she was so happy. Like, she had fulfilled her ultimate dream of getting married. She was gonna go in shlichus with Mendel. She actually debated leaving TA and finding a job closer to where she would be relocating. And thank goodness we convinced her to stay on board. Like, her life was just really turning into something she had dreamed of.
You know, my grandmother walked in the room and I could see right when she looked at me, I knew that she looked at me and she said, like, you know, I'm so sorry, Sheena. I don't think I ever cried that loud and that hard. When you lose someone, it's just like, it's a gaping hole, and it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what you try to fill that with.
We daven in the same shul every Shabbos, every Yom Noram, and when Rosh Hashanah comes this year, as last year it came, and Miriam wasn't there, I missed her.
Every time I go to parent-teacher conferences since, I'm expecting to see her there. I mean, like, oh, like, I'm gonna go to parent-teacher conference, and then I walk into the room and I'm like, oh, Miriam's not sitting in the chair, like, she's not meeting with parents. Like, how?
I never dreamt that such a thing is possible after being, you know, after finally finding Miriam, finally finding my second half and having a complete neshama. just losing it, and just like that, so quickly. I was privileged to have had Miriam for the time I had. And every day was a bracha. Miriam, the 2+ years, 2.5 years we were together, Miriam changed me in ways that couples don't change each other in decades. And I miss her every day. After Shabbat, everybody leaves. And then it's just me in the apartment without Miriam. That's when it really hits. You're in the same apartment that you and Miriam, that we built together. You hear the silence, you hear the loneliness, you get like, it's just, it's nothing like it, and nothing could prepare you, and nothing should prepare you for it.
I can't even describe how important Miriam was and still is in my life, where she taught me so much, so many, how to not let things stop you, how to keep going when things are hard, how to acknowledge what you have in your life. The lessons that she taught me and my family and the whole community and everyone who she spoke to will permeate forever. Her legacy will live on.
I knew that we had to do something to perpetuate Miriam's life and legacy. How do we ensure that Miriam's mission, that there should be no child left behind, every child should get the individualized attention they need, the chinuch, the education, just TLC, the love that they need. So with a lot of siyata d'shmaya, that over the last couple months, we've gone into contract to purchase a 14,000 square foot building right here in Baltimore.
This notion of creating a library, which is not just a library, a safe place, a haven, to give life to those who sometimes don't feel alive. What better way to promote the memory of Miriam and her drive and her ratzon, and do the ratzon of Hashem. Asay ritzaynai ki ritzaynah. His ratzon should be her ratzon, to build this amazing library that will bring so much life to so many people for long eternity.
The Maisa that's happening tonight will be a mitzaref to her machshova, so that her machshova of accomplishing here with children in the community will actually become a reality. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa, he is mitzaref her, the Maisa to the deed that's happening here, that her neshama will have an aliyah and her neshama will have nachas l'mayla from what is accomplished here on her behalf.
A library in the memory of Mrs. Miriam Mintz is an ideal way to perpetuate what she was all about. And that is a place where people could come and not only take out periodic books, but also a place to learn and to study and to have a tutor, have a chavrusa, whatever is necessary. This is the purpose of this library, which would be in a very nice place in our community, a quiet, tucked away place where people could go, children could go, and adults could go to increase their limud Torah.
Miriam was passionate about children, she was passionate about education, about connecting, and what is more befitting than that, than a center, a library, a frum environment where kids can come together, can grow in their learning, grow in their connection. seeing her name on the door will give her neshama, the nechama, to know that she really left her mark, not just on the students that she has taught previously, but on all the future generations of kids of Baltimore.
Mrs. Mintz never got to have her own kids, but us Learning Center children that went to the Learning Center, we all felt like she was one of our parents.
There are a lot of kids in our community who need help beyond school, or they need opportunities to grow and to develop themselves beyond school. And having a building that's warm and inviting and welcoming and has amazing resources could make all the difference to a child's learning and growth.
There's no question that this is the appropriate way to memorialize her and her legacy and what she brought to Baltimore and to this community and to the Talmidim that she helped. It's all about chinuch. It's all about growth of children, growth of Talmidim, growth of Talmidos. And if Baltimore could have something like that dedicated to her memory, it would be absolutely incredible.
The needs of the community, the educational needs, the needs for young people is growing exponentially. And the challenge of finding a physical location that can, like I said, create a framework around that educational need is paramount and rare. And it's hard to find physical locations for our community.
I wish for the Baltimore community to use this library as a way to remember such a special person, and for every time we walk in there, for us to remember her and remember how special, how many people she touched, not only in TA, but in this entire community. And her neshama should just have an aliyah for all the good things that go on in this library.